Finance Act that doubled VAT on fuel from 8% to 16%. That is where fellow Kenyans, the rain started beating us.
Unaweza enda soko na 5,000, umenunua samaki. Ukikuja unatafuta tu salad, labda salad ya 400, ilikuwa inaweza choma hiyo samaki ya 5,000. Lakini kwa sahi utapata samaki ile tulikuwa tunabai kilo moja 250, sahi tunauziwa na 360. Ukinunua salad lita moja tulikuwa tunabai na 150, sahi lita moja tunabai na 240.
I don't think there is any change. Actually, there is no any change. We are actually just operating between God and ourselves.
Budget ya nyumba tulikuwa tunaweza tumia kitu kama kuanzia breakfast mpaka supper. Tulikuwa tunaweza tumia kitu kama 600. Sasa hii imepanda mpaka 1000. Na ujue hiyo kitambo hiyo 600 ilikuwa inapatikana. Na sasa hii hata hiyo 600 huwezi pata hiyo 600 juu kila kitu imepanda.
You can untie those hands by directing the same MPs you threatened to amend the Finance Act, starting with the VAT on fuel.
Mr. Speaker, this is the 14th impeachment hearing that the Senate is hearing, and I've had opportunity to vote in almost all of them. I take great exception in the conduct of Moses Kuria, in the tweet that he sent out, and the things that he said about this house.
There's nothing that brings me greater joy than being proven right about the things that I've said about this administration. And I just want the majority leader, please, about this administration, because as you have said yourself, it casts very serious doubt on the capacity of the appointing authority. How much embarrassment can the president take?
Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the members of the other house, because they are the ones who have the responsibility of censuring and sending home cabinet secretaries, to take serious judicial notice of the conduct of this particular cabinet secretary, and this house, through the relevant committee, can come up with resolutions that can then be used to move the other house to discuss his conduct and to have him censured.
You may not be able to have that latitude to make a final resolution to send the Honorable CS home. But your recommendation to the other house will have a lot of weight. So kindly take full advantage of our standing orders and stamp your authority.
Right, some of the issues that have been making the headlines this week as well, as we're winding up just to review them. And we continue pace with, first of all, the biggest day yesterday of the State of the Nation address by the President, Professor Fred Ogola, an economist, and of course also Kipruto Rapkirwa, a governance and policy analyst, are helping us with this particular analysis. And before we took a short break, I was just wondering, first of all, on the question of the Eurobond, that you've seen the maturity of it is coming up next year, and he's giving a very sanguine and optimistic note that we are making an early repayment beginning by this December. But the question of the Eurobond has been also a moving target from the previous one that we picked, and of course we've been also asking for more, and the government has been also widening that particular base. It's not only Eurobond they were seeking to actually get to try and plug these holes that we do have. They were seeking also the Sukuk bond and other, issues as well as far as bonds are concerned. But what is your assessment on that particular note? So should we be happy that at least something is happening as far as debt repayment is concerned on the docket of sovereign debt?
Yeah, first of all, the most important thing we have to know is that when a country doomsday prophets have been saying that we might not even pay Eurobond. So by the president coming and saying, we will not just pay, but we actually will pay it ahead of time. So economy is very emotional, Debal. When you breathe positivity in the economy responds to it. Remember, even the financial markets, the stock markets, also respond to emotions and feeling. For example, if president will just say that Nairobi Stock Exchange is in shambles, you realize tomorrow how many shares will be going down. Even an election of a president, or let's say the State of Nation address, could actually, if you just study very well, there should be some market reaction to it, because somebody who was supposed to invest, for example, an investor was supposed to come to Kenya, knowing Kenya will pay Eurobond in time, could actually bring some positive vibes to the economy. So for me, I told you in the beginning that for me was the most positive thing in the president's speech. Of course, the other things which were in the Eurobond thing, you have to understand that Eurobond has a lot of issues in Kenya because there was a lot of stories about corruption in Eurobond. And I may be wrong, but according to me, the thing that made the current president and his predecessor start working different paths was Eurobond. Because there was a lot of disagreement about how that money was supposed to be spent, whether it was supposed to be taken, whether actually Kenyan borrowed money. And I want to tell you that I have enough evidence to say that the Eurobond should not be paid. It's an illegal debt. Illegal debt means that, was it appropriated by Parliament? And if you look at the money that was borrowed, do we know that that money was given to Kenya and the money came to Kenya that we are paying? Asking Kenyans to pay money that never came to the economy is asking Kenya to vomit bread and they never took it. You know, if you didn't swallow bread, then I hit your chest to vomit bread. How can you vomit bread when you didn't swallow? So according to me, we have to understand that the president is struggling with the debt. Most of it is illegal because it is not a matter of shouting on television, Debal. We went to court as Linda Jami and challenging the debt. Official debt, according to Parliament, which should be the only people to actually approve such a debt, is 2.1 trillion. Treasury, it is 6.1 trillion. According to State House, it is 9-point-something trillion. That's why I told you that anybody telling you that the problem Kenyans are having today began with Kenya Kwanza government, that person is dishonest and should never be your friend. Our problems began in 1992. That's when even the corruption, the kings of corruption we have now were being schooled. Remember that most of them are students of Moi. At the same time, this also goes on record. In 2008, all these people in government and the opposition were in one government. Do you know that? William Ruto was a minister for agriculture in Kibaki's government. Raila Odinga was a prime minister in Kibaki's government. Musalia Mudavadi was the deputy prime minister. So if you look, Martha Karua was a minister also. Kalonzo Musyoka was a vice president. Now when Kalonzo Musyoka and these other guys, Azimio, says they have a solution better than Ruto, I wonder whether this solution could not be given in 2008 that could turn the economy, because the economy started collapsing in 1992. And then Kibaki brought a bit of stability and it never helped. So for me, the problem of Eurobond is one thing, but there's one thing the president also had to point out, that Kenyans borrowed too much commercial loans from the commercial banks at an interest rate which is 50%, which for me is completely not reasonable. In fact, those debts should not be paid. They should be restructured, because I don't understand why are we paying debt at 50%? What is the issue? And in fact, banks preferred now to give Kenya government money as opposed to entrepreneurs. And that's why businesses suffered, because they had no working capital, they had no capital to grow the economy. If you ask me, the government should desist from competing with local entrepreneurs. In fact, the president do not have to do too much about this economy. Even giving a hustler fund is not helpful. The president should just say, I will get money elsewhere, but allow commercial banks to borrow to the Kenyan entrepreneurs. Because if you go to a bank at the Bal, if you're gonna drive into a bank and you drive in the bank, you're looking for money, who is the bank gonna give money? Between you and Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, who is risky? You are very risky. I am risky too. So the banks will tend to give to the Kenyan government money, but don't give you. And that's why I'm walking around. I'm a businessman. I talk to people in all places. They are lacking capital. Most of the loan applications, there's 92% rejection. So it is just because the government is lucrative, giving very high interest rates and dealing with illegal debt, that is suffocating the economy. Kenyans do not need to be fed by the government. Kenyans just don't have an enabling environment. That's why Kibaki sat on his seat and said, free primary education, which was a stimulus to the economy. Like I told you last time, that if you pay for me free primary education, the money I could have spent in education, I'll spend it in other things, and that brings revenue to the country. And then secondly, Kibaki just did not borrow with commercial banks and allowed people to push banks to start looking for people. I remember during Moi government, when I was in school, I was given funding to go and pay for my master's education. And I went to open an account in another bank. I don't want to mention the name. The bank told me because I don't have a pay slip, they cannot accept my deposits. I told I have a lot of money which can pay my education for 2 years plus. I could say, no, Fred, you are not in a pay slip. So I went to another bank, which actually now is called Equity Bank, and they accepted to take my money. Banks were not looking for you. You went to the bank. Now remember, after Kibaki, I'm sure you must have been in school or maybe in high school or studying somewhere. Banks were now putting tents in universities looking for people to come and open bank accounts and selling loans actively. That's the time the bank discovered that the government will never ever give them that free, let's say, loans where they make money, which is secure. But now they have to go to the Mwananchi, they have to go to Ejiku, they have to go to Onyango, they have to go to Mudoni, looking for how to give them loans. Currently, you don't see the banks aggressively selling loans to Kenyans because they're having a comfort. The government is borrowing from them. How can we push the government out of borrowing to people so that the banks will be pushed to look for people, go to assess their businesses? I can tell you as a banker, we came and tell you, oh man, you are doing this restaurant. Can I know your turnover? How are you making payments? If I give you capital of 50,000 shillings, can you grow? Imagine banks were coming to consult for Kenyans because they are desperate to give loans. Now they are not. So rejection rate is 92%. This will help Kenyans sort themselves. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. I want to go in serious civic education to tell people, government don't feed you. Don't tell us we're hungry. But the government should give you an enabling environment so that you can do your business and thrive. A beggar is not a good citizen. A citizen should be someone who does their businesses, able to pay back. But the only thing the government needs to do now, create an enabling environment, taxes, levies, and fees that are very cumbersome, remove them. Harassment by KRA officials, reduce them. Make Kenya look conducive to start a business. Like now, you know, by next year, I think it's coming, I think 20 something of next year, January, if you receive payment if you give payment to anyone, you must have a receipt because KRA will start tracking you. So guys have to enter e-teams in KRA system. Never pay anybody any money without a receipt. It's going to become serious. And I'm sure those are some of the things that are going to make business development a little tough. And for matter of fact, can we make business environment more lucrative, create an enabling environment where Kenyans can feed themselves so that they can pay taxes, the government can operate, and no one is on the street begging all the time. In a city where people are begging is so depressing.
Right, thank you. And of course, what Prof. Uongozi is highlighting there, you need to be cognizant of that. If you've not really registered for the e-teams, you have less than 2 months to sign up for the electronic tax invoice management system or risk higher taxes and stiffer penalties in a fresh bid by the taxman to enhance value-added tax compliance. That is the latest that we do have there. So some of these fees, because the government has been, I'm looking at also what the doctor was challenging there, looking at the changes in fees of a document, Kipruto Arap Kirwa, where ID right now for you to lose and get a replacement, you have to pay 2,000 shillings. Right from 100, we have the basic 34-page passport, 7,500 up from 4,500. We have registration of birth, 2,200 shillings from the current 50. Amending details on birth and death certificates, that will cost you 1,000 shillings right now from 130. Also regaining citizenship from 50,000 up from 5,000. Investor permits, 250,000 for Class G, and 500,000 for Class D as well. So the government is looking every which way to try and, get revenue. We are in a tight spot.
I think this is money the same administration would have gotten if they made business easy to do. Because part of the issue that they are collecting less, despite certain measures they are put in place, is because they have one problem. They have made business, doing business, a bit complicated. Otherwise, they would have been able to collect the same money if the environment of doing business was easy. But that is where we are. And I think for this regime, they believe in raising taxes, raising revenue through punitive ways instead of making it easy for somebody to do business. The second issue is the issue of fuel, which the president says he has no problem. He has no way of providing a solution. Apart from the depreciating Kenya shilling, I think the cost of fuel within the region is low. Why? It is because landed in Mombasa, petrol would easily be about 80 shillings. But 120 something is something that comes because of a lot of taxation. So I wish they were able to make it easy for us to do all these transactions, and they will be able to rake in more revenue. But they are thinking, even yesterday, it was in one of the papers, I think one of the business dailies, that even in terms of land transactions, they are going to raise stamp duty and other fees, such that when you are buying a piece of land that would have cost you about 3 million, you will have to spend another 1.5 million for stamp duty. This makes it impossible for any transactions to take place. And within no time, people will be doing clandestine kind of land exchange, because whenever taxation goes up, people will look for alternative ways of achieving the same without necessarily going through the right channel. And increasingly, you realize for the last 5 months, this regime has been collecting less than the same period last year, despite the fact that they have increased the taxes. These are challenges that I wish the president could be told the truth, so that it tells us the picture that is on the ground.
Yeah, just to tell you, Lival, I think that I told you the economic advisors need to tell the president on this matter. Because you see, also, they have a mandate.
But the economic advisors, they have said we're on the right track. If I just do one of the levies here, like in the hotel industry, I have just done my numbers. There are 19 levies just to do hotel business. 19 levies and taxes. For example, trade license, alcohol license, food hygiene license, billboard advertisement license, occupant safety, fire, NEMA, DOSH, KRA, which is pay as you earn, bed occupancy. They talk about the issue of TFI levy, TRA levy, house levy, NHIF, NSSF, income. I mean, if you have to pay 19 levies in one business, can you imagine just the energy and the effort of doing it becomes difficult. And all these levies you see on those charges together, plus all these things, first of all, it makes a Kenyan very unattractive person when they want to go anywhere. For example, you want to travel. You remember your passport, and when you do passport, you have to have an ID, they have to be certified. All those things become very costly. In fact, I did my analysis and found that in Eastern and Central Africa, Kenya is the worst in terms of ease of doing business. We are only better than Juba, which is the newest state in Africa. So if our ease of doing business has gone that lower, how will investors come to our country? In fact, these are the advice I want to give the president. What exactly will you do to make this happen? I remember I was an economist at the European Central Bank. Greece started having issues whereby tourism numbers were falling. Foreign direct investment was falling. Those who had the issue of trade deficits was very high. And we came up with measures of just making Greece attractive. Now, if you go to a place like Santorini, it is the place where people want to propose to each other if you want to wed. It becomes that place, a dream place to go and propose. Now, for us in Kenya, we have been having people coming to wed in Kenya. And Kenya has become a wedding destination for many people. Now, if you reach KK and they're trying to remove all these things you are trying to use for wedding, they look a little wedding gown, yes. Yeah.
So I'm trying to say that in as much as we want to collect money, they say, even Jesus says in the Bible, that if you want your life too much, you lose it. And if you give away your life, you have it. That's why Jesus gave his life on the cross to have it. So according to me, if you hold the bird too hard, the bird dies. At the same time, if you make it too loose, it escapes. So what is the optimum ways on which we can do the issue of taxes and actually get taxes, because in strategy or in economics, talk about the issue of leading variables is how much revenues do we need to collect. Lagging variables, what are the things we need to do for people to collect taxes easily? And in fact, we did, by the way, Mheshimiwa, I did a memorandum to the House, to the Committee on Parliament in Budget, and I told them how, if you approach the issue of revenue collection, you can collect 3.6 trillion shillings without increasing any taxes to anybody, actually lowering a little bit, at the same time without borrowing, to lower the borrowing and actually be able to increase your revenue. And they told me they liked it, but I told them, can I appear before the House Committee just to explain to you how this should be done? Of course, they gave me a date on this Hilton, the hotel, which is next to 4 Points, the one which is next to airport. Eventually, I got a call when I was on my way saying that, no, we just need your paper. When I look at the actual budget and the issue of a Finance Act, I saw they were completely flooded. In fact, that's why on another note, how we do budgeting also is a way, again, we make money lost. We make our taxes not actually realized. So according to me, KRA is always a parastatal, but KRA is an independent body which is tasked by the government to collect revenue. Can KRA propose measures without the president telling them what to collect? Propose measures on how to increase tax collection, and let us see whether KRA will tell you to increase taxes. They tell you otherwise. I can tell you, Dibal, as an expert in strategy, somewhere on the 4th floor of the towers, Times Towers, someone knows exactly how to collect taxes and collect more. But that person might not be listened to. Just like any organization, even where I work, I'm a strategist. If you tell me now to come and do strategy for Standard Media, I will not come with magic from outside. I'll just listen to each and everyone. In fact, according to me, this is the time the country needs to listen to each other. The president, when he was campaigning, he did a fantastic job of going to county halls, town halls, talk to Kenyans, listen to them, and see what they wanted. Then came out with papers from the town halls that actually birthed what they call the Kenya Kwanza, the plan, isn't it? I want to ask the president, when you did these town hall meetings, the economy was different, things were different. Can you do another town hall? Don't listen to your politicians. You talk to Kenyans directly. Go to town halls, listen to what Kenyans are saying. Go and talk to Mama Mboga once more. Meet the border, talk to them. How you feel on the ground? What are they saying? Then can that now form part of your next State of the Nation address on which way to go, rather than listening to guys who are just telling Moses Kuria that he knows very well that fuel, if you like, go to Tanzania or dig your own well. They won't help you. Mr. President, in as much as they are close to you, the people elected you are the ones who are suffering. And I'm sure you know very well you want to win your second term. Talk to these people. They are going to get you back to office. They'll tell you what they want. In fact, the problems Kenyans have, they know the solution. Like one border person told President Ruto, increase the fuel up to 500, then just stop there. Hii mambo ya kusema kesho, alafu itakuwa inapanda, alafu tena kesho yake inapanda, they want stability. Like for example, Debal, if you want to go for Christmas, let's say you want to house a family dinner over Christmas. And like for us, we do always a family gathering. We have to donate money so that we can have a very good party at home over Christmas. Now my brother was asking me, friend, what is the budget? Can you predict it? How much will bread will be? Because we don't know how fuel will be, isn't it? So you want to travel for Christmas. Can Kenyans budget and say, this is my spend on fuel, this is what I'll spend on food? This you can't, because you're just doing wait and see. And wait and see economy cannot work, Mr. President. We want to succeed, so can you have a predictable economy where people can predict? Investors want to come from abroad. They want to see how can be my net profit after 2 years. And without knowing how fuel will cost, without knowing how cooking oil will cost, You can't predict anything. You are just waking up and checking. Maybe you check from, I don't know, calculator and checking how much is fuel. Every time you drive past a fuel station, you look at that meter there and see, has it gone up or has it gone down? I think we need to have a predictive economy, and a predictive economy tends to grow than economies which are more unstable. We talk about volatility is very high.
Which makes a lot of sense, because even if you're being implored and entreated by the president that you should tighten your belt, you need to tighten the belt knowing that now these are the things that I need to scale down on. You can't tighten your belt if you don't know if the environment is not predictable. That, as you say, we don't know what EPRA will actually next week tell us on the 15th regarding the fuel. We've heard from the ministers, some of them saying it will go up by 300 shillings because of the Hamas and Israel war that is affecting, the price of the fuel as it is right now. So when you talk about tighten your belt, prepare and brace for tough economic times, we need to actually juxtapose that with the reality on the ground, that we know this is the price of bread, this is the price of maize flour, this is the price of cooking oil, and so we are paring down on our budgets. We see we can make do with if we were buying 2 packets of milk. Maybe our strong or our tea will not be as thick as it was before. It will just be like the one we had in high school, depending on which high school you went to, right? I know Kipruto Rapkiro was in Mango, so the cows were actually just...
You're in Mango?
Yeah.
Yes, I was in Mango.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
Mango was my choice for high school.
Yes.
No, for national school.
Yes.
Then St. Mary's was my choice for provincial.
Yes.
And I landed in St. Mary's. So congratulations.
Which was also a good school. It was among my choices.
Yeah.
So, all right. St. Mary's Yala.
Yes.
Yes, it was one of my choices. But you know the ban. William Ruto campaigned on the platform of guaranteeing minimum returns to farmers. And yet he has deviated from that completely, because up to now, they are still promising, as a maize farmer, that worries me. They are still promising 4,000. They have not initiated the process of buying the maize. They promised the other day that they were going to give what they call warehouse receipting. They are not picking the maize at all. Now, the maize has plummeted to 3,300, as we are talking now, in Wasingishu, Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, and Lugari. Now, that is part of the unpredictable environment for this regime. You do not know exactly what will happen in January, what will happen in March. While they are talking about they have increased maize production by 18 million bags, it is not true, because that maize is either rotting today because they have not sucked from the market to National Cereals and Produce Board. They have not also allowed us the freedom even to export to Uganda. Uganda maize bag of 90 kilos is 4,600. In our side, 3,100 and 3,300. So this is the unpredictable nature of this regime. And I would also want to urge the ministers themselves not to speak about things they are not sure about. You see, any pronunciation by a minister, like Chirchir saying the other day, fuel may go up to 300 per liter, is also part of creating instability in the economy. Tell us something that you can predict and something that you know is realistic. But just making statements for the sake of it or for the sake of headlines is something that any responsible regime should avoid.
A comment that he'd actually picked from the Financial Times, right? And he came even before the National Dialogue Committee indicating that. But we saw he's actually rode back on that particular statement, going by other deals as well. I wanted just to ask, when the president talked about austerity measures, because we can see he says stop wasteful spending to rescue country from debt distress, who is he addressing this particular stoppage of the wastefulness of resources? Well, it should be very categorical. To whom is it being addressed? Because this is solely coming from the wasteful spending from government. We've seen the control of budget highlighting how also some of the parastatal CEOs' salaries have been doubled, which cannot be explained how the salaries have been doubled so far, and what really explains and determines the double raising of his salaries?
Well, you know, that is where the problem is. I would have expected the government to be responsible in terms of even trips abroad. I strongly believe some of the 38 trips he has done since he took office, some of them could have been downgraded to the level of ministers. Some of them, even ambassadors, can represent us in some of those institutions. It's a question of delegation. Otherwise, the president traveling means he has a huge volume of a huge number of people to travel with him, and that makes expensive. Even some of the local trips, there are issues that can be done by regional commissioners. Some of the issues can be done by the county commissioners without necessarily the president being all over. Otherwise, it is in campaign mode. And third and most important, almost in every ministry today, you realize that they are traveling to America, wherever, and you wonder, are all these travels really necessary? Because you can cut down on even some of these international trips. And of course, as Professor was saying just a few minutes ago, why don't you downsize the number of vehicles that you use? You still find V8s are in various ministries. So those are the measures they should take. Otherwise, if you are telling Kenyans austerity measures, and already you are punishing them by raising taxes, it is a contradiction of a sort.
Yeah, right. According to me, on the austerity measures, first of all, there's a time when austerity measure is an economic tool. When should we have austerities? We should have austerity measures when we are thriving as an economy, not when we are depressed. And this looks counterintuitive, but let me tell you what. When your career is having a challenge, should you cut on investing in your career, or should you invest in growing your career? Because I remember in 2006, I was kicked out from the seminary, and I was in shambles. I had like three degrees already, and I had no job. And I discovered that I was being trained to be a priest, so my degrees were more for priesthood. But now I've been kicked out from seminary. So if I said I don't want to invest in my education, isn't it? I couldn't be a professor. So immediately I went to do 2 degrees and then a master's degree. And then I kickstarted my career, and now it's on the right track. So we believe in economics that when things are tough, for example, during the global financial crisis, you saw people injecting money in the economy as stimulus. When COVID-19 hit Kenya, Uhuru injected money in terms of stimulus in the economy. So when the economy is suffering, you don't need to suffocate it much further by having austerity measures. Because if someone cannot eat food today, someone cannot produce today. Someone can consume, someone can produce. Because economic measures are tough, by giving austerity, you crumble the economy. I remember when I was an economist.
So there's few money in circulation.
Yeah, so you need to do something. I remember during the during financial global crisis, when the pigs were going under, that is Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, I was an economist advisor for them. And we had to borrow money from European Central Bank and pump into those economies on areas which will work. But it is not good, it's un-Solomonic to be able to put austerity measures when things are good. But having said that, I also want to talk about what do you do here. Austerity measures in any government in Kenya has only been led by the president. Magufuli led one, isn't it? He's the one who said, I'm not traveling. He came with measures, say, if you want to spend this money, tell me. If you want to travel as a minister, I must approve it myself, you understand? And that really lowered the cost of travel. The other thing which is also serious about this thing, about travel, do you know when you travel outside the country, you don't spend in Kenya shillings when you're in the UK, right? Do you? Do you spend in Kenya shillings in the US? You don't. And we are having a challenge about the dollar, Kenya shillings, balance of trade, getting the foreign exchange. So if you are traveling so much with so many people as a head of state, you are spending in dollars. And the dollar and the Kenya shillings is in serious. We are giving taxes in Kenya shillings, then you spend them in dollars. And dollar, the Kenya shillings depreciating against the dollars. So you are bringing a strain. If you ask me, my brother, COVID has brought something fantastic. Even some meetings can be done virtually. And I believe that some things, I'm doing some business, some Americans, we do meetings virtually. I don't have to travel like now. My boss has traveled to the US, but for me, I'm going to join them online. Next time, I will travel, then he joins me online. We have agreed just to cut the cost, because even us, we have to spend that money and see how we do it. So according to me, it's very easy to solve the economic challenge. And I can tell you, Deval, people have told you, give me more time. But I believe if there's a goodwill, it can only take 3 months maximum for the economy to recover. And it's not magic. We just need one thing: cut the government budget. It is on the roof at the moment. And the president, I hope that after his speech he made yesterday, he will go back and sit down and actually go and find ways to cut this budget. Remember that the government, the cost of running this government is the highest in the history of Kenya. And maybe it is because they are thinking because the cost of living has gone up. No, it's not. There are so many unnecessary spending that we are having. Even the Economic Council has said a lot of wastefulness in this government. And I'm thinking that the president now, realizing that things are tough, let him behave as if things are actually tough. And I'm sure that there will be some critical questions that the Treasury has to answer regarding the issue of the economy. Because if you are telling them that they have collected less by adding taxes and levies, they are seeing it in their own books. And I hope that the best thing you do, experience should be a good teacher. So the experience, we're going to teach the president that actually you can't walk this path and go, because we want him. You want to collect more, don't add taxes. Actually increase the tax base. Bring everybody to paying taxes. Make Kenyans love to pay taxes. And lastly, can we make good use of this money so that taxpayers love to pay taxes? In UK, people love to pay taxes. If you have not paid your taxes in some countries, people even tell you, man, this is not fair. Because they know that if you pay, if all of us pay, we'll get the services. Can Kenyans start getting the services to make them want to pay taxes? But if you're on your own in the supermarket, you're on your own in hospital, you're on your own in school, you're on your own on the road, then somebody will also want to eat from that very little you can use in those places. Then people feel a little disadvantaged.
I wanted just to latch on that bit before we head back now to the issue of fuel, because many people are also looking forward to hearing from the president talking about the fuel issue, which now we've seen some of the ministers say that has got nothing to do with us. It's all about the free market. So we are left to be on our own there. But I can see some of the oil traders or oil marketers here in the country have gone to the courts to challenge also the Uganda National Oil Corporation, who wanted to come and invest in the country. And they're saying they need to follow. They're not meeting the requisite demands or the requisite what do we call it, that is needed, that particular list that you need to check out of that checklist for you to qualify. Some of the recommended issues that you need to qualify, one of which is to have 5 fuel stations in the country, to also sink in 1.5 billion shillings for you to be here in the country. Lately, we've seen this particular spat between Uganda and Kenya because of the government-to-government deal that they felt they were shortchanged, and the government was not very transparent. Yet also they own 40% of these shares as well. And now they've opted to go to Tanzania. And people are saying this is bound also to affect the fuel prices in the foreseeable future. First of all, do you think we should lessen, when you're talking about the business, conducive environment business, that it's not really robust as it is, we are lagging behind in the East African region. This particular moment, shouldn't the president have taken this particular issue of Uganda, because they're the biggest importers of our trading partner? 90% of what we actually export to Uganda is what is the share right now. It's a huge market for us. Should we also be kowtowing, so to speak, and bending backwards for Uganda to reconsider this particular option as it is, so that the fuel prices may be stabilized as it is? What will you have done as a minister? Let's say you're in the docket of agriculture as a minister of energy right now.
Well, first of all, I would be able to remove the cartels, because even some of this government-to-government fuel arrangement is not entirely true. There was a middleman who was involved in wherever they are getting the oil, so that somebody was getting a bit of the money. Because how come that fuel in Rwanda is cheaper than fuel in Kenya, and yet Rwanda takes their fuel through Kenya, through Uganda, and some of it through Tanzania, and it's cheaper than fuel here in Kenya? It is because there are many other people who get involved in this fuel arrangement, and because we would have expected pipeline to get involved with whatever they are calling government to government, buying fuel in dollars. It worries me because the businessmen in Uganda have no reason to pick fuel from Eldoret, which has been the tradition in the past, when the fuel in Uganda is lower than the fuel in prices are lower than the prices in Kenya. I would have, one, remove the cartels from the industry. Two, be genuine about the kind of government-to-government engagement. Three, tell Kenyans there is no fuel that you buy in Kenyan shillings, because eventually you'll have to pay, whether it is a deferred period or it's a period credit period that you are given for 3 months or 6 months. Eventually you'll have to lose some hard currency, because nobody will pick your Kenyan shillings in Dubai or wherever that fuel comes from. Finally, the issue of externalizing the problem of fuel is really is a turnaround on the president's statements. He himself, when he was campaigning, he was telling us, don't tell us about Ukraine, Russian war, don't tell us about all these issues. Today, he's telling us about the war in Israel, and he seems now to realize that an external factor affects our internal issues. But as we know, a huge confusion comes from our own inability to be transparent about doing business in Kenya. It has nothing to do with those external wars. Today, fuel in Tanzania is 198 shillings. Tanzania is getting fuel from the same destination, from the same source as we get. So 198 shillings equivalent in Kenya shillings, and we are paying 217. It tells you almost 20 shillings more than what Tanzanians are paying just across the border. So some of these issues is that we really need to be transparent, and we also need to be less wasteful in terms of whatever we do as a country. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we talk a short break, at the risk of just sounding very gloomy, they always say that we have to see, or we have to take the rough with the smooth. And given the speech of a president as well, it can't be all gloomy on one side. There are also highlights of the administration that has been, we can talk about the successes so far as it is. We just see there's the Fuliza bit of a market share, just given what Safaricom was reporting yesterday as their 10% growth in the market, or in the profit, that 40% of Fuliza has been eaten away by Huduma, not Huduma, but the Hustler Fund. It goes to show that at least there is a discernible difference that the Hustler Fund is making so far. Are you in agreement with that particular assessment, or what view do you hold?
Yeah, but as an economist, there are some things that even if they grow, they don't matter. But there are some things when they grow, you feel good. What was Hustler Fund supposed to achieve? Hustler Fund was supposed to grow the business at the bottom, isn't it? It was supposed to ensure there's economic vibrancy. That's why it was a stimulus money, if you like. You borrow money. You heard about those business say you'll borrow money, buy eggs with it, sell and come back. Now count to me how many business people started an egg business and now thriving. How many people started the chicken business and now thriving? You heard those things on television, where someone says, I borrowed money, I bought some few chicken, now I'm selling, I'm growing. Let us see whether their business has moved from MSMEs to SMEs or something like that. Those are the things which matter in the economy. Because for us economists, we know how many businesses are growing from micro to small, isn't it, to corporates. So having said that, let's also give the fact that this Hustler Fund was used for consumption, was not used for business. So if the president intended to give some people some cash money to make, that's okay, because he made a statement and say they have borrowed 36.6 billion shillings outside there. Repayment rate has been 15%, meaning that he's got around 6 billion shillings collected back from people to the exchequer. Now, with the 15%, 85% default rate, are you proud as a fund? Because a fund should not be a sinking fund. Mm-hmm. Now, I heard the president saying this is not free money. It's money that should come back. So we measure Hustler Fund on one, did it actually stimulate economic activity on the ground? Two, was the repayment rate meaningful so that it's a fund that can continue revolving to people? And three, did the president achieve the aim it wanted? Because remember in the current budget, instead of allocating 50 billion, they did only 10 billion. Meaning that maybe they saw it was not working. So I'm happy the president must have given Kenyans some free lunch, but not really. But talking about the highlight, for me, one thing the president has scored, whether you like him or not, his scored is on visibility.
On visibility.
Yes, the president has made Kenya very visible. Look here. You know the Haiti discussion, as much as the Haiti case is not a good thing to talk about, you had Joe Biden talking. You know, when Joe Biden talks, the whole world knows that Kenya is taking people to Haiti. Whether it's a good publicity or not, that's a story for another day. Hosting the king, who has visited Kenya as a head of Commonwealth, the first Commonwealth country visitor, that's visibility. Thirdly, his foreign trips are keeping Kenya very visible. Fourthly, hosting the Africa Climate Summit. That is again, because it was taking place for the first time and took place in Kenya. So recommendations going there will be Nairobi Declaration. You know, I like these things, how history says, isn't it? You hear about Nairobi Declaration, Abuja Declaration. So the climate in Africa will remain Nairobi Declaration. And for years to come, it will be on record. And history will judge him fairly for that. Now, what the president needs to do after that is, how can you turn this visibility into productivity? Just like Tebala as an expert, I'm sure with the media people, you know that you advertise something, that thing is visible, but what you want is sales. Can you make sales after you become visible, after you do marketing? So for me, I think that's where maybe what remains, and I think that's where the guys, I was saying that Kenya needs a fiscal policy and also need a foreign policy on how to convert this foreign asset, which has been set on visibility, into something productive. But just allow me to comment something.
No, because you raised a good point there. I wanted just to highlight the fact that, you know, we've been bashing the president as well on this particular travels, that he's always globetrotting, never relaxing. When is he in Harambee House? But in terms of visibility and branding Kenya, he has scored. And now it's not really the honors of a president now to make sure that there's a turnaround on and get exceedingly beneficial effects out of this. It is the agencies which are behind him to try and now latch on the good publicity and branding is done for Kenya. That's what I'm asking. Just hold on. Organization like Keproba right now, which merged with the Export Promotion Council and Brand Kenya, should be now the agency that also takes advantage of this as well.
Yes, exactly.
And the Kenya Tourism Board in trying to sell some of the services, because our tourism has been bashed as it is since COVID-19, is when now we're actually trying to recover. But we can see other countries are taking over in terms of the leadership of tourism. So he's done a sterling job in terms of vicarious benefits. That's another thing. But in terms of branding Kenya, I think he should be given a thumbs up as well. And here Malama is speaking about the Pan-African Institute that was being unveiled at Kenya University. And he's acknowledged the fact that, yes, he's been, fronting Africa, he's been pushing the Africa agenda, but he's failing also to keep some of his promises he has put up.
You are right, because as you know, we have Air Force, we also have Kenya Army. The Air Force, in any military attack, will bombard the city, isn't it? But then it's the work now of the Kenya Army now to finish the job on the ground. You understand? So the president has thrown a bomb. on the international space to make them visible.
Yeah.
How are the agencies harvesting that benefit from what he has done? Because I'm telling you, the same Magufuli said that being president is very hard, because even if a fly hits a wall, Mr. President, the fly is now hitting the wall. So I'm also trying to tell that we have two things here. What is the president doing that he needs to do right? But what else are Kenyans doing and other agencies watching? And I told you when we began this show, Debal, the president said, let's pull together. You know, what does that mean? I think Kenyans need to understand, what does that mean? It says, I am doing my part. Maybe I'm not very right, but can someone also pick up from where I am and get right? So you mentioned very well, those agencies, after Kenya is so visible. And remember things, Safari Rally, I've not been mentioned enough. Remember the president went into the car and drove himself there. He was driven actually. You see, that was a very big symbol to a nation, and Kenya was very visible. WSR. Is it WSR or? Mm-hmm. Yes. Then the other thing was about the Masai Mara. When he went and put on the Turkana thing, and that was during the wildebeest migration. You see, now after that, people just said, oh, the president is Masai Mara. Then it went quiet. What are other agencies doing to leverage on that? The president who likes visibility and the rest. So I'm trying to say, even the media. After that, what questions are you asking these agencies? In your editorial, I'm sure you usually give some editorial statement on which way forward. I'm sure the media has done fantastically well on that. Maybe those are the areas me to highlight. And Debal, I'm waiting, and I have a dream that there will be one day when Kenyans will tweet, come visit my country. I went to Singapore and I went to South Korea. The young people on the social media, they are proud of their country. They tell you, please come to Singapore and visit. So what is it we need to do until someone can invite us to come? But if you got our social media, failed nation, hustler nation, they're just jokes which shows that we are going nowhere. When can we have a positive vibe about our country, even our social media? Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but there are some things that actually we need to also ask ourselves. Have I been part of damaging the Kenyan image or building the Kenyan image? When you tweet that we have a country that is a failed state, are you helping yourself or you are hurting the president? The president don't need a country to be so successful to survive. I think he's wealthy enough already. He's no longer even a hustler at the moment. But there are people whom, if you just say we have a failed state, tourists won't come. They rely on just driving a taxi to collect a tourist to an hotel to earn money. So I'm sure that there must be this thing pulled together. For me, what I picked the most, can we just pull together? Because at the moment, there is no need of saying that there is Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. That's no longer there. Because Raila Amolo Odinga was in State House. He ate the same dinner cooked by Rachel. I heard him saying on your own news channel that was invited by Prince Charles. But I tell you, if William Ruto did not want him in, he could have not come in. So let's be honest, his host was the president. For me, what I saw in that dinner was a country united together, because Raila said he wanted to remove William Ruto from State House. But now he entered State House in a good invitation where there was a drink and a chat, isn't it? According to me, now let us pull together. How can we ensure the country succeeds? How can this country function? What are our roles in different agencies, different sectors? For me, I'm in the private sector. I'm also in the civil society. What can we do? According to me, that's the way to go. But always just looking at negativity won't help us. The other thing which the president has done very well, the president is a very good orator. And when the president challenges the Western nation, like he was at in France the other day, and he made a very good speech on changing the economic architecture of the world, the global economic architecture, financial architecture, to help African and developing countries. Now, what has the Kenyan economist picked? What has Treasury picked? So I'm saying those are things which are positive, that is worth picking on, but I'm sure that that's a story for another day. But I hope that one day he'll invite people who are capable. Maybe like us, what can change in a global economic architecture to favor Kenya? It is in the Solomonic economic model, well written. The solution is there. So I'm sure that even for you, my brother Kirwa, in agriculture, for me, when I see you, I see someone who could have been the CS of agriculture. changing the food security in the country. You are so vast in it. What can we be able to pick up and do? And of course, you ask me, has he given you a platform? Maybe he has not. And that's why the challenge is in inclusive economy. The president needs to create that inclusive economy where people like Mheshimiwa here can come and contribute and grow the economy.
All right. Also, as we take a short break right now, music is up.